The Patapon series has always had a special place in my heart. My memories with these little eyeballs date back to 2010, when I would crudely draw them in cool scenarios and endlessly replay the first missions of the third game on PSP, since I had little idea of how the game actually worked. Point is, I've known these cute circle-shaped war criminals for most of my life now, yet I've never given them an actual chance until April this year. Like, I never beat any of the games or gotten far in them. In fact, I don't think I've ever played Patapon 1 before that. And even now, after beating Patapon 1 4 months ago, I don't remember almost anything from the game at all. But hey, enough of my experiences. What does the public think of Patapon?
What do you think of Patapon?
What? What is that?
Oh. I see. Well, since I've been on quite the hiatus, I decided that I should take a look back, review, analyze, and spread the word about this wonderful franchise, starting with the first game. Before we start off, I want to say that I'm going to be using an emulator for this. I have an actual working PSP and the free Patapon games, but I may as well just throw them out of the fucking window because I can't record off of it. Although, for the truest experience possible, I will not be accelerating the game or using any kind of save states. I want to stick as close as I can to how the game is supposed to be experienced. Patapon is a rhythm RPG action adventure game? Something like that. It follows the story of tribal eyeballs, who you control, inspired by West African tribes. You may be thinking, no, they're too cute to be black, C. Colin. Which I'll reply with,
Hello, Mario.
let me put down some basic knowledge for you before we go a bit more in depth. Every Patapon has stats, those stats being health, which is pretty self-explanatory, damage, which you know what it does, speed, which is the speed at which your unit attacks, armor, which is how much damage your unit can avoid from a specific thing, such as arrows, critical, knockback, and CNC? What does CNC stand for? Concussion? I don't know, let's just call it stagger for the rest of the video. Which is how likely your unit is to inflict those effects, and resist, which is how likely your unit is to ignore those effects. Patapon 1 works like this. You have a rhythm of 120 beats per minute, a measure is 4 beats, you must drum in 4 on-beat inputs in that measure, then wait a measure before you can do it again. If you didn't get that, basically it's like this. If your inputs are on beat exceptionally well, you will do a perfect beat. If you do all perfect beats in a measure 3 times in a row, or just drum like shit for 9 measures, you can reach fever mode. In fever mode, Patapons do more damage and take less damage. You can maintain fever mode with above average drumming skills through the whole level, or you can be a fucking idiot and lose it 2 seconds after reaching it. I, of course, have absolutely no problems with drumming perfectly. Not even a single time have I struggled with the Patapon 1 drumming mechanics. Being able to customize your army is also a great addition. Actually stopping to think on what classes to use and then coming up with that perfect result gives you that satisfying feeling I just can't find in other games. And this is further backed up by the Rarepon system, which can help see your specific unit's weakness or strengthen what already makes them great. Or you could just make every single one of them fucking Magyun or Barcel if you're the most boring person on the fucking planet. I'll dive into the Rarepon system later on. I actually nearly forgot to talk about this, but the art design in Patapon is phenomenal. The visuals in this game are extremely unique and distinct from any other game. The Patapons themselves are my favorite example of this, as they're just so simple a freshly served child could draw them, yet they remain iconic and cool looking, which is probably the biggest reason I drew them so much when I was younger. And Rolito's vector art style really complements the simplicity too. I just can't imagine the games looking any other way, man. But I can't forget to mention how absolutely unforgiving this game is sometimes. This is the only Patapon game where you can actually lose your units forever if you don't pick up their cap before passing the mission. And fun fact, one-hit kill attacks on high-level bosses do not drop caps. And also, as evidenced by the sarcastic remark earlier, the timing in this game is very hard compared to the rest of the series. Because of that, and the fact that you don't get a second chance when fucking up a measure, Losing Fever is very easy. But hey, at least the music's a fucking jam! The music composition in this game is just amazing. This game is some of my favorite video game music of all time. Most of the songs in the game do their job at pumping you up for a fight very well. Although that small part I just showed you was straight from the soundtrack, the music in game unfortunately is pretty low quality. Apparently the game uses samples of low quality sounds or whatever to play its music. I don't know, I'm no Mr. Hacker Anonymous 4chan. Somehow they figured out they don't have to do that when Patapon 3 rolled around. If only they knew sooner. Once you press New Game, you are told the story of the Patapon Ancients, and how they were once a great tribe that conquered everything in their way to find Earthend, a sort of promised land for the Patapons. But as the game says, today the Patapons are far from their glory. We then sign a pact to take the role of Almighty, the Patapon God, who will lead our heroes towards Earthend. We are then given the Pawn Drum, or the Drum of Bravery, which we can use by pressing circle. We are given a prayer from none other than Patapon, the first Patapon unit we encounter. He represents the middle of our soon-to-be Patapon army, has no offensive or defensive capabilities, except for being immune to status effects, and if he dies we automatically fail the mission. He hands us the Patadrum, or the Drum of Strength, which we can use by pressing square, and it will let us execute our first command. The March of Mobility is the first song we're able to perform, and it makes Patapons, well, march. It's performed by doing pata pata patapon. As we go forward, we recruit some spear-throwing Yaripons, the most basic unit of the Patapon arsenal. They are decent mid-range damage dealers and are the cheapest Patapon units to produce at 80 kaching. Eventually, the dragon Dodonga, even though it looks like a fucking dinosaur, Patapon devs, what are you on, starts chasing the pawns. And in the middle of our escape, we meet some red square-eyed folks. These are the Zigatons, the antagonists of the game. Although right now they're running from us like little cowards, they will terrorize you for the rest of your journey. After beating the mission, we end up in Patapolis. Pataplis? The Patapon village. The hub for everything you're gonna be doing and your new home. We then talk to Medn, the Patapon priestess. She's the only Patapon you can speak to directly and whenever. She will give you tips on how to proceed or just comment on the current situation. She asks for our name. I, of course, chose the best name possible. Cool, as a symbol of my radiating coolness. Medn tells us to go hunt something because the whole village is apparently starving, despite some of the Patapons literally holding fucking food in their hands at the festival. But I digress. Patapon gives out a prayer to us yet again. This time it's to learn the aria of attack, which will let our units finally damage something. It is performed by doing pawn, pawn, patapon. Then we get back to the village. Medn shows us the altar where we can view our loot gathered from genociding an entire species of animals, yada yada yada. Next mission. On the next mission, we are tasked to destroy the Zigaton wall in our way of escaping exile. We do exactly that, and we unlock another unit type on the way, and the Patapon hero, Bandit Patapon. Bandit Patapon deals a huge amount of damage with one swing of the sword, and topples any kind of obstacle in his way. At the end of the mission, he turns into a butterfly and gives you his memory, which unlocks the Patapon class. Patapons are defensive melee units which wield a sword, or axe, and shield. These are extremely important units, especially in storyline missions. They can also put out some below average damage, but enough to make an impact. They are the second cheapest at 120 kaching. Completing this mission also unlocks Matter, the Tree of Life. Matter is where you will be creating your Patapon units with materials and kaching, the little transparent circles on the ground and the game's currency. We then have to destroy the Zigaton forts standing in our way of total freedom. In the middle of us doing exactly that, we meet another Patapon hero, Don the Yumipon. He fires some fire arrows at a pretty fast rate, useful for the rest of the stage. He, like Bandit Patapon, also turns into a butterfly and gives you his memory, which unlocks the Yumipon class. Yumi pawns are long-range bowmen that put out some really good damage, but are really fragile. In my opinion, they stay viable the entire game, and not once have I unequipped them. They cost 150 kaching. Then the big guy, General Gong the Hawkeye that all those cowardly Zigatons were talking about, finally arrives. Gong is regarded by many as one of the best characters in the Patapon franchise, appearing in every goddamn game. He's even Hiroyuki Katani's, the director of Patapon's, favorite character. Although we toss his little puny army around and he leaves in shame. Next on our list is to kill the Dodonga. Here we get introduced to perhaps the biggest part of the game, the bosses. They're the best example of Patapon gameplay. Use the right commands when you need to, all in rhythm. Even if there are a few flaws, such as the boss sometimes falling out of sync and attacking in the middle of your command, making you unable to dodge. But it's not that big, it only happens sometimes. Before we approach the Dodonga though, we pick up the Chaka drum, or the Wisdom drum. Its primary use is for the Lament of Defense, which we learn after picking up the drum and is performed by doing Chaka Chaka Patapon. I might as well just talk about the 3 other songs right now. The Requiem of Retreat, performed by doing Pon Pata, makes your Patapons run for their life. This song is practically useless in story missions, but is essential for bosses. The Hold Tight, Hold Down, performed by doing Pon Chaka Chaka, makes your Patapons charge their attacks, unleashing a stronger attack on a consecutive Pon Patapon, or a greater defense on a consecutive Chaka Chaka Patapon. The Song of Miracles, performed by doing Don 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 Don, a drum we haven't unlocked yet, activates your equipped miracle. This is the only song in any of the games that makes you hit backbeats. You can only use it during fever mode. It won't work otherwise. Anyways, back to the boss at hand. The Dodonga, the big-ass dragon dinosaur abomination, has 3 moves: Headbutt, Fire Breath, and Devour. The names are self-explanatory, but you won't be seeing the latter for now as we can't dodge yet, and the game is actually balanced. Unlike, if your Patapons can defend through the Dodonga's moves, you'll be a-okay. Once the Dodonga is defeated, you have to uncover in secret in Patata Plain, so you can cross the desert, behind which the cowardly Zigatons hide. The secret leads you to the second boss encounter, with Magidonga, a stronger version of the Dodonga. But before you approach him, there is another drum for you to collect, the Dawn Drum, or the Drum of Miracles. It's the last drum you will obtain and is only used in one song, the aforementioned Song of Miracles. Magidonga has one more move called Roar, which he cannot even use against you yet, so you're basically fighting the Dodonga with more hit points. What a shame. Magidonga drops the Miracle of Rain, which you need to pass the Scorching Desert in your way. I'm not sure how getting miracles from a corpse of a dragon dinosaur thing works, but that doesn't matter. Oh, I should mention that a lot of the bosses, if not all except the final boss, have a stronger version of them with usually 1 or 2 more attacks and more health. Now, as we try to pass the desert, we meet Aiton and Makiton, the best of friends who are always together and cannot live without each other. Oh, I just killed one of them. Tough luck, buddy! Makiton is another character who keeps possibly appearing in every single game. I guess it's just a Zigaton habit. He, of course, gets really mad and wants to give us a 13-page monologue on how Aiton was his only friend and he's gonna get revenge on us, but he realizes quick that Patapon dialogue is a very inefficient way of doing it. So he just flees and tells us that he's mad. Now that you get the gist of the game's story, I want to talk about the rest of what this game has to offer. The rare pawn system works like this. You have items that have a specific level from 1 to 4, and those items have a specific item group, being either meats, minerals, wood, vegetables, or alloys. Fun fact, you can use vegetables instead of meats in some cases. And the better level items you put into matter, the better rare pawns you will get. Rare pawns also multiply the amount of kaching you will need to create the unit depending on which one you want to make. So if you wanted to make a Barsala Yumi pawn, you'd have to spend 1050 kaching. There are 6 types of rare pawns in Patapon 1, and they are Piacola, a Patapon unit in the style of an orange bunny. It has the fastest movement speed, plus 30% stagger, a free attack point bonus, and some resistance to fire. It costs double the original kaching. Gekalos, a frog-looking Patapon. It has an 0.4 attack speed bonus, resistance to fire, critical hits, and stagger, a 5-point damage bonus with the downside of being weak to arrow damage. It costs triple the original kaching. Mofil, a defensive type rare pawn that looks like a sheep. It has an armor bonus to all physical types of damage and a 100 health point bonus in return for being vulnerable to fire damage. It costs quadruple the original Kaching. Tickly, a fast blue hedgehog. Where have I seen that before? It has 50 more HP than usual, an attack speed of 1, and an 80% chance to inflict critical damage. It costs 5 times the original Kaching. Magyun, a slow yet extremely powerful Patapon. It has a 100 health point bonus, about a 50 damage point boost, a 20% chance to inflict critical damage, a 50% chance to deal knockback or cause stagger, and a 30% slower movement and attack speed. It costs 6 times the original Kaching. And Barsala, an angelic Patapon with universal stats and absolutely no weak points. This is the best rare pawn along with Mogyun you can get in the game. It costs 7 times the original Kaching. Assigning the right rare pawns to the right classes can make all the difference in the world. Be wise with your rare pawn choice. Speaking of classes, I should probably mention the rest of them. Kibapons, obtained from Kibapon's memory after the Zachnel fight, are Patapon horsemen that wield halberds. You can have only 3 of them, but they deal pretty high damage and are extremely useful in a lot of areas. In pre-fever, they slowly walk in the enemy and poke them with their little stick. But in fever mode, they will dash at the enemy, dealing highly consistent damage and knockback, and then run back. These horsemen aren't fucking around! They cost 200 Kaching. Decapons, obtained from Decapon's memory after the Gain fight, are giant Patapons wielding clubs and hammers. In my opinion, they're absolute garbage in Patapon 1. They are too slow to even hit anything, including bosses. And God forbid they get knocked back. Takes forever. Even though their concept is basically the same as a Mogyun rare pawn, high damage but slow, they somehow fail at that. You're better off just making Mogyun Tatapons. Oh, and their charge attack? God, is it horrendous. Good luck hitting anything with this horrible class. You can also have only 3 of them, like Kibapons. They cost 250 Kaching and are the second most expensive. Megapons, obtained from Megapon's memory after the Chokina fight, are, well, whatever they are, there are some really solid units that attack with sound produced from their horns. They're a class that dish out status effect inducing attacks, and if they're Mogyun, holy fuck. When they're Mogyun, they can do massive damage, if not the most in the game. Even the tip screen for them says it's a shame that you don't get these powerful warriors earlier. You can also have only 3 of them like Kibapons and Decapons. Such is the life of an advanced class. They cost 300 Kaching and are the most expensive for a reason. Let's talk minigames, cause Patapon has them, and they're mostly groovy as hell and pretty fucking fun. They're a core part of the experience. They're one of the main ways to gain materials, and you get better materials or rewards if you perform better, obviously. First is Patapon and the Funky Tree Uwobon. This is objectively the best Patapon minigame, and you can't tell me otherwise. The funk is so great, it radiates off of the game and just makes me want to fucking dead! To play this minigame, you must have at least 1 piece of lever meat, the level 1 meat. You must press the circle button in the same kind of way that Ubobon says bon 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 to make Panda Patapon play his trumpet. You usually get branches ranging from level 1 through 3 from this minigame as a reward for completing it, but there's a slight chance to get meat and sometimes even ores from it. Right after that, we have Fazakapon and the big ass plant Pop Bean. To play, you must have at least 1 wood branch, the level 1 wood item. It's a pretty simple minigame, just press circle on every beat to make Fazakapon do some plant work until it stops. After which you have to press the beats in the same rhythm that Pop Bean launches her vegetables into the air. You get vegetables ranging from level 1 through 3 for completing this minigame. On to the next one. Another one is Konkimpon and the Mountain Baby Rumble Thump. I don't even want to talk about this one. It's an alright minigame at its core, but I don't think I like talking about hitting children's toes with spoons. Shame that replaced a pretty cool looking and sounding minigame with this. You need at least 1 piece of tender meat, the level 2 meat, to play this minigame, and you get ores ranging from level 1 through 3 for completing it. Next up is Raw Gashapon and the Talking Pot Simmer Slurp, my second favorite minigame. You have to press circle at the right time to cut the ingredients thrown by Simmer Slurp. You need at least 1 piece of eyeball cabbage, the level 1 vegetable obtained from the Fazakapon minigame, to play this one. Your reward is a stew ranging from level 1 to 4. Stews are an item that, when equipped in the stew slot under Patapon at the headquarters menu, buff your army depending on what stew you equipped. Lastly, we have Tonkampon, an anvil with legs Fouche Fameuse. This is the hardest minigame in the game, although I feel like the Patapon community exaggerates its difficulty. I can ace it like 80% of the time. So either I'm just good at the game, or Big Patapon is lying to us again. Anyways, to play this minigame you need either Hard Iron, the level 2 ore, or Mithril, the level 4 ore. You need to hit the presented piece of metal in rhythm with Fouche Fameuse blowing the bellow. The minigame has 4 phases. First is pretty slow, second is faster, third is fastest, this is the one where most people, myself included, fuck up, and fourth is slowest. If you give Fouche Fameuse a piece of hard iron, you will be able to obtain alloys ranging from level 1 through 3 for completing this minigame. But if you give him Mithril, you can obtain a level 4 alloy. Or, if you perfectly hit all beats, a divine weapon. Divine weapons are the best weapons in the game, and are named after you. You can only have one of each type though, sadly. Here's my attempt at getting a divine weapon. You can also hit him in the head, which is pretty funny but makes you instantly fail, so don't do it. Unless you really want to. Of course, since I mentioned everything I love about this game, I have to mention everything I dislike about it. Some of the missions are just straight up not fun at all. Take for example, Gate Goal Baban or Across Enemy Territory. You have to fucking stand there and do the aria of attack in one place the entire mission. No strategy or thinking required. These are the kind of missions I despise. Sure, the gate looks cool, but where's the fun? Across Enemy Territory is the lesser culprit here, as you actually have to defend sometimes, but it's still mostly standing in place. Then you have missions like Convoy Escort or Ray of Hope, where you have to deliver a convoy full of resources to Dodon Basin in order to build a fort, or in Ray of Hope's example, steal a catapult. But it just so happens that the convoy, catapult for Ray of Hope, is made of Play-Doh and collapses the second someone looks at it funny. Also, it just so happens that Convoy Escort is the first mission where Zigoton Flame Archers appear. The exact thing the convoy has an immense weakness to. You could say the same about Door of Promise, but in that mission you should already have the Tailwind Miracle, obtained a World of Ooze from a Gold Mochichi, which disables the Zigoton arrows from doing anything to your precious catapult. And then there's missions like Zegaton Queen and Final Showdown, where you're just unable to fucking do anything, either because of Karma's Sleepy Dust, combined with the fact Beetleton is the only Decaton that can even hurt you, or in Final Showdown's case, overwhelming meteors that do damage out of this world. Oh yeah, Queen Karma. That thing. She talks like she's fucking Shakespeare or something and is not fun to fight. As a character though, she's okay, I guess. I would much rather have preferred Gong as the main villain of Patapon 1, but that's just my opinion. Overall, the game just really falls in mission quality at the end of the game with really boring or unfair missions. There's only 3 bosses in this game I'd say I don't like, that being Dogain with his unpredictable nature, Shukul and its stronger versions, Shoshukul with its pollen being released whenever you stagger it, and Chokina with her just being a dumbed down and boring version of choking. Honestly, any boss with undodgeable sleep attacks isn't fun in this game. In conclusion, Patapon 1 is a great and fun game, even when the final missions kinda suck. Honestly, if I had a brain when I was younger, I would have loved this game. It's a shame I never even wanted to try this one despite having it. Even after this video, I'm still playing on that same save you saw in the background of this video, making my Patapon stronger and stronger until I've done absolutely everything. It's an extremely addicting game which I recommend to everyone. And if Patapon 1 seems too hard for you, try Patapon 2, which I'll be covering in the next episode of A While With. Thank you for watching, check out my other videos too, if I have any.